So let's start again after the lunch. First of all, it's I have to recognize my fail because when you have the checklist of this complex organization, you just check the main points. So the main points was today to have good feed, tortilla and pescado and a lot of things that you have had. But I forgot the coffee. I'm so sorry for that. So, okay, I think we can survive until 5 o'clock, in which I'm going to give you a farewell Spanish wine. So, will be better. Yeah, to wait for a while. So let's start. And we're going to a particular important point. And it's a local point. And as I said at the beginning of this meeting, whenever we're going to talk about local and particular, I would say, controversial points, that we have to use local regulation and local names, it is better to move on to Spanish, but no problem, because you will have the translation here. And also the people on the streaming, they will have the translation in the screen. So now I'm going to change to Spanish and to introduce all of the speakers. But structure will be the same, so that we have 10 minutes just to present whatever they want to say, and then after we will open the discussion, first of all with them, and then to open to the audience, right? Bueno, pues buenas tardes. Ok. Buenas tardes. Primero presentarles a los ponentes, que son hay varias administraciones y una persona que está intentando desarrollar, lo conocemos, Eduardo, lo vimos ayer en el ITC, y que también dará esta perspectiva. La primera administración es la del gobierno de la isla, que es el Cabildo de Gran Canaria, y tenemos a uno de sus técnicos, que es Alejandro Báez. Luego tenemos de la administración central del gobierno de Canarias, tenemos un director general, en este caso con rango de viceconsejero, o sea, top level, que está encargado, es una agencia que está encargado del desarrollo científico y la innovación en Canarias, ni nada menos. Luego tenemos a Eduardo Portillo, que los que fueron ayer al ITC, bueno, nos explicó su departamento, el departamento que él dirige, que es el Departamento de Biotecnología, y que lleva años, a mí me consta, intentando promover ese área, esa zona para el asentamiento de empresas y que aquello empiece a funcionar. Yo estoy muy contento de que desde la Dirección General de Pesca también se hayan sumado, con Magda, que la tenemos aquí, que viene a dar un poco la perspectiva de las necesidades o requerimientos legales en Canarias para que una explotación de esta pueda seguir adelante. Así que, sin más preámbulos, vamos con Alejandro a que haga la exposición de cuáles son los intereses de la administración local de Gran Canaria. Luego pasaremos a Javier Franco finalmente con Eduardo, y en la discusión, antes de la discusión, pues Magda, tendrás la oportunidad, si crees que es conveniente, de dar alguna puntualización. ¿Te parece? Bien. Pues Alejandro. Les voy a rogar que se peguen al micrófono, porque si no, no se oye muy bien. Es que acabo de ver a Isabel, que me ha dicho esto ya cientos de veces.
Bueno, buenas tardes a todos. Lo primero, agradecer a la organización que contaron con el Cabildo Insular para desarrollar estas jornadas, y también para dar nuestro punto de vista en el desarrollo y fomento de la acuicultura a nivel al menos insular. Si a Rafa lo conozco hace muchos años, le agradezco muchas cosas, no te puedo agradecer que no les haya dado café.
Ya.
Porque eso nos complica a los que estamos aquí mantenerlos atentos. Lo intentaremos de todas formas.
Ser sincero a veces te trae
problemas. Bueno, yo voy a intentar ser rápido y explicar un poco en general qué es lo que hemos hecho y qué es lo que esperamos de la acuicultura en Gran Canaria, sabiendo que los cabildos insulares tienen unas competencias en materia de acuicultura no transferidas todavía desde el Gobierno de Canarias, así lo pone la ley y el reglamento. Es verdad que no se ha dado bueno, el clima adecuado para que esto se produzca, pero sí es verdad que ya lleva más de 20 años en el que en teoría los cabildos insulares deberían ser los que dieran parte de las competencias, ejercieran parte de las competencias en el otorgamiento de las concesiones en caso o autorizaciones de la producción acuícola en su territorio. Lo bueno es que con el Gobierno de Canarias, la Dirección de Pesca, tenemos una buenísima sintonía y muchos de los proyectos los llevamos de la mano, muchos de ellos. Hablo de la Dirección General de Pesca del Gobierno de Canarias, que es el órgano competente que todavía ostenta esas competencias. Por ponerles en situación, y probablemente haya algún dato que pudiera estar un poco desfasado, Gran Canaria ha sido el motor de la acuicultura, especialmente y principalmente de peces de Canarias. Ha llegado a niveles de llegar a ser, junto con el resto de las islas, Tenerife, La Palma y algunas veces Lanzarote, uno de los principales productores a nivel nacional. Vuelvo y repito que referido siempre a la acuicultura de peces, que por ahí se empezó hace más de, pues ya cerca de 45 años, casi 35 largos años, en los que la situación actual podría ser algo de este tipo, ¿no? 3 granjas marinas en mar abierto, una planta de cultivo microalgas que está ahí que sí, que sí, no. Un criadero, preengorde, 2 plantas de empaquetado, pero son cerca de 9.000 toneladas anuales autorizadas para producir, insisto, peces. Y además una cosa que lo digo, vamos, con orgullo, es que después de muchos años, y también de la mano del Gobierno de Canarias, hemos conseguido que coexista con la actividad pesquera profesional, artesanal, que a veces en otros sitios ha habido colisiones en ese sentido. Esto hizo que el Cabildo Gran Canaria ya hace, yo creo que 7 u 8 años, intentara aunar todos los esfuerzos, todas las infraestructuras, todo el conocimiento, todo el talento que residía en la isla para alinear sus intereses e intentar conseguir que las empresas que existían fueran más fuertes e incluso que hubiera más empresas nuevas. Para ello, identificamos a los principales agentes de investigación y desarrollo de la isla, como están ahí, de parte de la universidad, el Instituto Coaqua, también el Banco Español de Algas y el ITC del Gobierno de Canarias, de su sede en Pozo Izquierdo. Ellos eran los que sabían técnica y por desarrollo cuáles eran las claves para aumentar la producción en Gran Canaria de acuicultura. Este índice, a grosso modo, ha sido nuestro leitmotiv en los últimos años, ¿vale? Y yo me centraré solo en el primer punto, porque los demás hemos conseguido muchas cosas, otras no. Hemos invertido, o se ha invertido bastante dinero en los centros de investigación y de desarrollo, en colaboración con las empresas, pero hay otras cosas que no hemos conseguido. Y creo que el debate de hoy es principalmente qué nos hace falta para conseguir lo que no hemos alcanzado todavía. En resumen, es adaptación del marco regulatorio. Ya hace 7 u 8 años identificamos que era uno de los grandes problemas. Habilitar áreas productivas y de experimentación. Fomento del I+D+I, eso es de cajón. Y un desarrollo empresarial y atracción de inversión, que era el objeto final. O sea, estábamos hablando de argumentar y fundamentar lo que a mucha gente se le llena la boca hablando de la economía azul, que yo, por defecto, después de tantos años trabajando en esto y ahora en la dirección insular, para mí la economía azul tiene que pasar por la acuicultura y la pesca profesional. No la entiendo de otra manera. Hay otras actividades que sí son economía azul, pero tendría que ser los principales pilares que la sustentaran para que realmente una actividad económica y estratégica llegue a buen término. Pues si nos centramos como decía, en la adaptación del marco regulatorio, Antes identificamos y hemos conseguido algunas infraestructuras de desarrollo de actividad investigadora y de proyectos pilotos. Hay varios centros tecnológicos, hemos identificado áreas de alto valor o de alto interés productivo, solo quiero nombrarlos, ¿vale? También se han hecho muchos proyectos, hemos identificado qué podría facilitar el desarrollo de las empresas, pero al final veíamos que chocábamos con el marco regulatorio. Por lo tanto, ese ha sido nuestro talón de Aquiles en ese sentido. Incluso en colaboración con el ITC se ha hecho junto con la SPEC, como comentaba antes, que ha sido uno de los grandes impulsores de Bioasi Gran Canaria, una incubadora donde albergábamos iniciativas empresariales o de emprendeduría relacionadas con la acuicultura. Pero si nos metemos en lo nuclear de este bloque del foro, había dos grandes instrumentos que ordenan jurídicamente la actividad acuícola. No los he puesto por orden de importancia, pero sí para el desarrollo me facilitan. Uno es el Plan Insular de Ordenación de Gran Canaria, el cual es competencia exclusiva de los cabildos insulares, en este caso de Gran Canaria, en el que ordena el territorio terrestre, ¿vale? No tiene competencias en el territorio marino, pero sí puede facilitar mucho la implantación, en el caso que nos ocupa, del cultivo de algas, microalgas, macroalgas en tierra. Y luego hay otro gran instrumento que ha sido el que el Gobierno de Canarias ha llevado a término, que es el Plan Regional de Ordenación de la Acuicultura, el PROAC, en el que, de una forma muy sucinta, pues identifica, fue aprobado en el 23, en el 18, ordena, establece cuáles son los métodos de cultivo, cuáles son las listas de especies autorizadas, cómo se modifican, cuáles son los criterios para que entren o salgan esas especies, identifica los principales polos de cada isla con alto potencial para la acuicultura, establece que luego hay que hacer una ordenación detallada, es decir, ya tenemos una gran mancha en el mar, ahora tenemos que identificar cuáles son los polígonos, qué tipo de producción, estamos hablando siempre en mar, ¿vale? Y el PROAC, además, regula otras cuestiones que sí son comunes para el resto de actividades o de técnicas acuícolas. Pues con el PIO sí nos pusimos a trabajar. La verdad es que fue un trabajo complicado, largo, pero al final, para mí estas dos fotografías representan claramente lo que hemos conseguido después de muchos años. Que el PIO del 2004 identificaba como en toda la isla unas 3.400 hectáreas compatibles con la acuicultura, compatibles. Y sin embargo, después con la modificación del PIO, hemos identificado pues 83.000 hectáreas compatibles y otras 8.000 prioritarias. Esto es multiplicar casi por 25 la superficie que le podemos ofrecer a los inversores para poder establecerse. Esto, que es lo primero que hay que hacer, no es lo que facilita la inversión, son muchas otras cuestiones. Pero esto había que hacerlo sí o sí. Y por nuestra parte se hizo. Costó, pero se hizo. Gracias a los centros de investigación y desarrollo nos echaron una muy buena mano con esto. El Plan Regional de Ordenación de la Acuicultura, y Magda está aquí, que fue una de las valedoras de que se consiguiera por parte de la Dirección General de Pesca del Gobierno de Canarias, ordena el medio marino, regula las concesiones, las listas de especies que pueden ser cultivadas o no, cuáles son los criterios, establece zonas de interés, como comentaba antes. Y un tema que es crítico hoy en día, porque está, como veremos después, no me gustaría decir paralizar, pero sí al menos enlentecer muchos proyectos, es cómo modificamos esa lista inicial de especies de interés para la acuicultura que veremos ahora. Se establecen una serie de criterios, si son nativas, si no son nativas. Si lo vas a cultivar en circuito cerrado, puedes hacer una especie prohibida. O si es en mar, tienes que asegurarte que no se te van a escapar los organismos que estés cultivando, etc. Es decir, establece una serie de criterios que permiten, desde el punto de vista normativo, porque no olvidemos que esto es norma, es ley, autoriza o no una serie de especies a ser cultivadas en aguas o tierras canarias. Este es el listado del artículo 18 de la normativa del PROAC. Si les he marcado en verde las especies de algas, ustedes que son especialistas, pues les parecerá ridículo, es verdad. Ha habido alguna modificación, ha entrado alguna más, pero son bastante insuficientes para lo que demanda el grandísimo avance que han obtenido ustedes los investigadores en especies y lo que muchas de las empresas nos demandan de venir a cultivar a Gran Canaria o a Canarias, porque esta normativa es de ámbito autonómico. Yo, lo que decía antes, es urgente la adaptación del marco regulatorio, proyectos de este tipo que están en veremos. Pongo cifras que no son ficticias, son de proyectos reales, de proyectos inversores que están trabajando con los centros de investigación de la isla, que están a expensas de si esta especie se puede, si no se puede, si es que tengo que hacerlo en circuito cerrado y me aumentan los costes, si es que esto lo puedo vertir al mar o no. Entonces, eso genera mucha inseguridad jurídica, que es a lo que huyen los inversores, como es lógico. Estamos hablando de números que yo creo que son lo suficientemente elocuentes como para que le echemos una pensada o pongamos de todas las partes lo que tengamos que poner para que se desbloquee. Por eso, al final ocurre, hay una normativa que te establece cuáles son las especies, cuáles son, al final pasa por una serie de estamentos administrativos que son los que le dan el visto bueno a esas especies o no. La disparidad de criterios desde los técnicos más productivistas basados en cuestiones puramente científicas choca de frente. Estuve buscando un icono de la bomba atómica, pero me parecía feo en los momentos que estamos, ¿no? Pero es verdad que choca frontalmente con los criterios que establecen los que ostentan la potestad y la obligación de preservar la biodiversidad. Choca frontalmente. O sea, es que choca como dos trenes de alta velocidad en la misma vía, claro. Por eso es urgente, y creo y animo y felicito a la universidad y especialmente a Rafa por crear este tipo de foros, porque este debería ser el primero de muchos, en los que establezcamos cuáles son los criterios técnicos, científicos, que obtengan la sostenibilidad de la acuicultura. Cuando alguien dice, no, es que la parte ambiental de la sostenibilidad ambiental, yo no lo estudié así. Yo no lo estudié así, acabé la carrera hace mucho tiempo. Para mí la sostenibilidad es indivisible. Es decir, tiene que ser técnicamente posible, ambientalmente respetuosa y socioeconómicamente viable. Si no, no tiene sentido. Entonces, en este tipo de actividades en las que creo profundamente en que puede convertirse realmente en una auténtica diversificación de la economía de Canarias, es urgente ponernos de acuerdo. Nadie gana, nadie pierde. Es ponernos de acuerdo. Insisto, si no somos capaces de ponernos de acuerdo en esto, seguiremos basados en el monocultivo. Hace muchos años, los que conocen la historia de Canarias, fue la cochinilla, luego fue el plátano, el tomate, ahora son los turistas. Seguiremos plantando turistas, no pasa nada, seguiremos plantando turistas. Pero no creo que es lo que queramos para las generaciones venideras. Muchas gracias por su atención.
Bueno, toma la palabra ahora Javier Franco de la Agencia Canaria de Investigación, Innovación y Sociedad de la Información.
Gracias, Rafael. Gracias, Alejandro, por esas palabras. Yo primero agradecer, obviamente, como no iba a ser menos, de la organización y al amigo Rafael, de poder participar y felicitarlos a todos por estas jornadas que entiendo que están siendo bastante fructíferas y enorgullecerme, por supuesto, de estar aquí entre expertos y ambientalistas en esta mesa que creo que es bastante atractiva a un hombre como yo de ciencias, pero de las ciencias básicas, como las matemáticas. Pero bueno, intentaremos estar a la altura de mis compañeros de mesa. Bueno, antes que nada, yo creo que, y permítanme un poco, para no salirme del guión, porque estamos casi como intentando estar en todos lados, leer un poco la propuesta que les queríamos traer de lo que está haciendo la agencia. Lo primero, creo que es importante para aquellos que no nos conozcan, los que vienen de fuera, como ya bien dijo Rafael. Somos la agencia, somos una parte central, digamos, y ejecutiva y directiva del propio Gobierno de Canarias, en donde tenemos nuestras competencias marcadas en la I+D+I, en la investigación, en el desarrollo y en la innovación. Cuestiones estas que se dicen rápido, pero que obviamente tienen un peso de responsabilidad bastante grande, y sobre todo cuando estamos en tiempos, como decía el amigo Alejandro, de querer plantar algo más que los turistas y querer también que la economía sea lo más diversificada para nuestra tierra, ¿no? Y obviamente por todos aquellos aspectos naturales de biodiversidad tan enriquecedoras que tenemos y que podemos aportar no solo a nuestra economía, sino a nuestra población, por su bienestar. Dicho esto, obviamente esas competencias se tienen que basar en pilares fundamentales que son nuestro trabajo del día a día. Trabajos que están en un caso, en uno de los primeros de esos pilares en la gobernanza. Estamos intentando transmitir y coexistir con las normas europeas del Estado español y las nuestras para que puedan ser lo más en el ámbito de la I+D+I, ¿vale? Para que sean lo más positivos y que luego esto nos permitan que el segundo pilar, y creo que el más importante para todos y el que más nos identifica, que es la financiación, que siempre es poco, y lo sé por el equipo y por la mayoría de personas que están aquí, que son investigadores que han pasado por la etapa pre-doc, que hay otros, me imagino, que están en los postdoc, y todos poco, y todos creemos que es importante. Y además cuando tenemos en la mesa la discusión entre la investigación básica y la transferencia del conocimiento. Y yo, como hombre de ciencia, entiendo que tienen que estar las dos y coexistir, pero que Canarias tiene que apostar de verdad, porque es algo que nos va, digamos, en sangre para el bienestar de toda nuestra ciudadanía y de nuestro entorno, por la transferencia. Pero sin la primera, que es la básica, no habrá la segunda. Tenemos la internacionalización de nuestras políticas de I+D+I. Tenemos que poner, no solo acompañar, como ya veremos ahora, estoy viendo ahora los carteles de faros, como los que los que ha dicho Alejandro, todos estos proyectos que vienen de los proyectos europeos, ¿vale? Y esta parte no solo tiene que quedarse ahí, en acompañar, en financiar y en potenciar todos esos, compromisos que debemos de tener, sino que además debemos de identificar y crear sinergias y caminos que potencien a nuestro ecosistema, porque creo que lo que tenemos es de una excelencia y de una calidad inmediable. Y de ahí, en estos días ustedes lo habrán estado oyendo, ejemplos como no solo con otras regiones de España tener acuerdos directamente y en el caso de la economía azul, con el tema el tema del País Vasco, con aquellas misiones que algunos de ustedes supongo que habrán estado o tenido la oportunidad de conocer, con Marruecos, que son los que nos lindan, y con tantos otros proyectos que ha desarrollado el Instituto, por ejemplo, Tecnológico de Canarias, que ya fue la avanzadilla nuestra de Canarias, digo, para estar presentes en este continente hermano y que hoy nos acoge en esta Casa de África. En fin, esa internacionalidad que es necesaria. Y por supuesto, y una parte importante, porque si ustedes hoy están aquí, es porque hay un motivo, un leitmotiv, que es que desde pequeño entendamos la ciencia como una parte importante de nuestra sociedad, y por tanto uno de los pilares nuestros es también la divulgación de la ciencia, la divulgación de la innovación y la divulgación de la investigación que se hace en Canarias. Y es una parte tan importante como la primera. Así que, dada esta introducción, obviamente darles las buenas tardes a todas y todos y, como digo, agradecer agradecer estar aquí y que cuenten con la Agencia Canaria de Investigación, Innovación y Sociedad de la Información en este foro técnico empresarial tan necesario para el futuro de la bioeconomía azul de Canarias. Gracias, Rafael. Bueno, estamos aquí para hablar de algas, sí, pero en el fondo estamos hablando de algo más profundo, de cómo transformar el conocimiento en economía real, de cómo hacer que la innovación que ya se está generando, gracias a ustedes, en nuestras islas se convierta en industria, en empleo cualificado y sobre todo en soberanía tecnológica, porque como dije antes, tenemos capacidades. Como saben ya, la agencia, la FORUM'25, como ya todos lo conocemos, es responsable de la elaboración e implementación de las estrategias de especialización inteligente de Canarias, la RIS-3, por eso dije antes lo de la gobernanza, estos son de los documentos necesarios, y en ese marco de la RIS-3 del 2014-2020 se identificaron, ya que en aquel entonces se identificaron, como bien dijo ya Alejandro, la ciencia marino-marítima, y que la biotecnología vinculada a la biodiversidad como sectores prioritarios para el desarrollo de una economía basada en el conocimiento y en la innovación tecnológica. Ya venimos años, como dice también Eduardo, ya venimos años, Canarias, pero no nos vamos a cansar. En la nueva RIS-3 ampliada, la industria de la economía azul se ha establecido como una de las 5 estrategias sectoriales, constituyendo uno de los principales desafíos estratégicos para Canarias. En esta línea y con objetivo de impulsar esta economía azul, en particular la biotecnología azul y la acuicultura, la agencia ha venido apoyando de forma continuada iniciativas orientadas al desarrollo tanto de infraestructuras e iniciativas orientadas al desarrollo, de infraestructuras científicas y proyectos asociados en el ecosistema canario de I+D+I, especialmente en nuestras universidades, en nuestras 2 universidades públicas, en la Plataforma Oceánica Canaria, PLOCAN, y por supuesto en el Instituto Tecnológico de Canarias. Desde la agencia llevamos años apoyando esta visión y hemos invertido ya, Eduardo me corregirá, 15 millones aproximadamente de euros para dotar al hub de Pozo Izquierdo de las infraestructuras necesarias para experimentar, testar y validar tecnologías en biotecnología azul. Es un espacio singular que acoge la isla de Gran Canaria, único, que ya está atrayendo a empresas, nos consta, de habernos tropezado, no decimos más nada, a startups con esa singularidad de los espacios que tienen para el emprendimiento y, por supuesto, los centros de investigación. De hecho, es una de las iniciativas más relevantes en este ámbito, ha sido la creación en 2017, como ya bien dijo Alejandro, de la plataforma de biotecnología azul y acuicultura Bioasis Gran Canaria. Y permítame, aunque no por repetirme, pero poner el énfasis porque las administraciones nos hemos puesto de acuerdo para estar todas juntas e impulsar con el apoyo decidido de la FORUM'25 para fortalecer el sector biotecnología azul y el acuícola. En la participación en ella, por supuesto, participa el ITC, la Sociedad Promoción de Gran Canaria, que es la impulsora del Cabildo de Gran Canaria, y por supuesto la Universidad de Las Palmas de Gran Canaria, a través del Instituto Universitario de Investigación en Acuicultura Sostenible y Ecosistemas Marinos. Y por supuesto, no nos olvidemos del Banco Español de Algas, ambos gestionados por la Fundación Parque Científico Tecnológico de la Universidad de Las Palmas. Tengo que nombrarlos a todos porque este es nuestro ecosistema y si no los ponemos en relieve y en visión, no seremos capaces nunca de reconocer a nuestra gente. En paralelo, por supuesto, la agencia ha fomentado la participación, como dije antes, en programas europeos y proyectos competitivos como Horizonte Europa y Interreg-MAC. En el ámbito de la producción de algas, actúa como socio institucional en el proyecto FAROS, que tenemos hoy uno de los carteles que ahí les pone en la cabecera, liderado, por supuesto, por la Plataforma Oceánica de Canarias, PLOCAN, con un presupuesto de más de 9 millones de euros, que prevé implantar un sistema de cultivo de macroalgas en aguas abiertas asociados a viveros de peces. Otros proyectos de referencia en este sector apoyados son el Plan Complementario de Ciencias Marinas, Sinking Azul, que está ya en la fase de terminación y en la presentación en breve en estos meses, y que ahora tenemos una segunda parte de planes complementarios, cofinanciados, por supuesto, por el Gobierno de Canarias a través de la FORUM'25, que por primera vez ha reunido a todos los actores canarios en economía azul, en un proyecto conjunto. Esta iniciativa ha tenido la continuidad del programa Interreg+, como Acuiconecta, liderado por el ITC o Calypso, con más de 1 millón, liderado por la ULPGC, el Calypso, efectivamente, en los cuales también se aborda la producción de la macro y la microalga. Digo esto porque hay que poner y puntualizar, como dije antes, y ponerlos en valor. Pero claro, llegado a este momento de contar todo esto que estamos haciendo por la I+D en Canarias. La aprobación última de la Transhaps. Efectivamente. Son socios también. Pero bueno, vamos por partes porque es una hora que hay. Quizás contar todo esto. Sí, a corto. Pero bueno, pero claro, todo esto no es suficiente. Y entonces, esta situación tenemos un claro embudo. Y hay capacidad científica, hay infraestructura, hay un mercado global con interés creciente en productos de alto valor, pero sin embargo no conseguimos escalar. Si me permites, termino. Nos falta marco, como dijo Alejandro, un marco jurídico, un marco territorial y un marco de entendimiento entre las administraciones y, por tanto, necesitamos alinear las voluntades de todas las instituciones insulares, municipales, regionales, nacionales y estatales y europeas para que este ecosistema experimental pueda darse el siguiente paso. Y ese siguiente paso será la fase precomercial e industrial en la que hoy estamos en el debate. Y lo diré con toda claridad, y aquí termino, y si quieres luego en el debate profundizaremos. Sin garantías de escalabilidad no habrá incubación.
Bien, está meridianamente claro cuál es la posición de las administraciones, que es precisamente el impulso del desarrollo de este sector. Ya lo vimos esta mañana desde que comenzó este foro. Ahora tenemos una perspectiva del luchador, ¿no? Del que está ahí intentando poner en marcha, y esa perspectiva, sin acritud, ya se lo he dicho, se debe, digamos, también exponer aquí para que veamos cuál es la otra parte y en qué consiste. Eduardo.
Gracias, Rafa, por la invitación y sobre todo con la confianza de el día antes de pasarme de moderador a speaker. Estuvo muy bien, por tanto me vengo sin nada preparado, o sea, sino con el guión de haber sido moderador. Por tanto he esperado a que Alejandro y Javier dieran su speech para saber en qué hilo conductor retomar el tema. Creo que han hablado, muchas gracias Alejandro y gracias Javier Franco por su exposición, porque prácticamente lo han dicho todo, han dejado muy claro en qué situación estamos y sobre todo reafirmo la última frase de Javier Franco: si no se contempla la posibilidad de una escalabilidad comercial, todo el tema de la incubadora, el tema de toda la infraestructura que se ha hecho, nadie va a incubarse, nadie va a estar con prototipos en fase experimental durante 1 año, 2 años, adaptando una especie que supuestamente se puede cultivar, para después, cuando consiga tener un plan con ese prototipo de que es viable comercialmente, no tiene un sitio donde ir. Actualmente eso no es posible, por tanto se han escapado muchos trenes. Yo voy a intentar hablar, como dice Rafa, de lo que nos ha tocado a nosotros, como ITC, que es el desarrollo de la acuicultura vegetal marina en tierra. Aquí nos hemos quedado alucinados con las diferentes ponencias de otros ámbitos que no conocíamos, que es todo lo que son las macro offshore, en long lines, asombroso. Nosotros estamos en tierra, a no ser como Alga Plus, que estuvo por aquí Inés, ¿no? Que nos encantó, o sea, a nivel de IMTA. Nosotros estamos en algo parecido, que es justo en el año 2017. De toda la experiencia pasada, lo mejor que se ha podido contemplar es la plataforma Biosis, porque intentó aunar, como comentaba Rafa y Javier Franco, a todo lo que es el ecosistema que podía apoyar al respecto de todo lo que es la acuicultura en tierra, identificando diferentes polos. Voy a hablar del polo de pozo izquierdo, que fue el que se identificó como el posible desarrollo para esa acuicultura vegetal marina en tierra, y todo lo que teníamos que resolver a nivel del marco legal jurídico para poder hacer ese hubs experimental, como comentaba Javier, y poder tener esa escalabilidad futura, dejar los cimientos bien atados para poder escalar. Por tanto, se ha trabajado en lo que es la compatibilidad del terreno, como ha dicho Alejandro Báez. El PIO marcó la directriz, por tanto, prácticamente todos los terrenos en los diferentes polos estratégicos que valoramos y sobre todo el depósito izquierdo, la mayoría de los terrenos anexos tienen esa compatibilidad prioritaria, por tanto se podrían anexionar en un futuro, nuestra propia parcela también. Sí hay que decir que el plan general todavía, el PIO marca lo que es la directriz y ahora los planes generales de ordenación tienen que regular a nivel municipal las ordenanzas y lo que tiene que estructurarse para poder generar esa actividad. Por tanto, tiene que ordenar pues tanto por ciento de edificabilidad puede haber, qué diferentes tipos de sistemas se pueden colocar, cimientos, zapatas, etcétera, reversibilidad del suelo. O sea, hay cosas todavía que trabajar. Por tanto, todavía tenemos que seguir luchando. Entonces, yo por si acaso me paren, el gran milestone que tenemos nosotros es haber consolidado al menos pozo izquierdo como el primer hubs a nivel experimental para poder desarrollar acuicultura vegetal marina. Y todo resuelto. Entonces, estamos hablando de la compatibilidad del terreno y los siguientes puntos clave que hay que resolver son la capacitación de los insumos, que estamos hablando de agua marina, y la capacitación de la gestión de vertido. No me voy a ampliar porque ya Flavio explicó muy bien cómo era el polo, los diferentes catamarinas que se tuvieron que hacer, los diferentes pozos. Eso un privado prácticamente sería imposible. Es como pedirle a la actividad pesquera del atún, ¿vale? Que si quiere hacer una actividad pesquera, el privado podría acceder a un barco pesquero de 60.000 euros, 80.000 euros, pero nunca construir el muelle, ¿vale? Que le posibilite para ir a atracar, para descargar el pescado, etc. Es lo que estamos intentando hacer desde Pozo y es lo que convergió la plataforma, como generar puntos estratégicos donde generar esa actividad experimental y buscando en paralelo donde hacer actividad comercial. Yo voy a seguir hablando, improvisando, para que dejar pautas para que luego pregunten y generar ¿cómo se llama? Un debate activo, ¿vale? Para decir y para que entiendan por qué está bloqueada la actividad y sobre todo en lo que lo podemos mejorar haciendo amigos, ¿vale? Y sobre todo poner altura científica para que se resuelvan estos pequeños cuellos de botella. Si hemos resuelto la parte de los insumos, la parte de vertidos, como quien dice, a través de pozos filtrantes, capacidad a lo mejor también de posibilidad de una autorización de vertido mixto sustancial. Luego tenemos la parte que comentaba Alejandro, que es de autorizaciones de las especies a cultivar. Ahí entramos dentro de una ambigüedad que tenemos que generar foros como estos, tanto con biodiversidad, sobre todo con biodiversidad. Pena que no haya nadie aquí de biodiversidad para poder haber estado contrastado eso y poderlo hablarlo, porque necesitamos altura científica, necesitamos mucho consenso, porque actualmente las supuestas directrices que hay marcadas para desarrollar esta actividad por parte de biodiversidad la imposibilitan, y esas supuestas directrices no quedan como muy claras, transparentes, ni están protocolizadas. Por tanto, creo que tenemos que hacer un debate profundo, tirar para adelante y generar mayor debate científico, invitar no solo a lo que es que el funcionario del Departamento de Biodiversidad, sino tener un debate entre todos, porque como acaban de decir Javier Franco, estamos participando en proyectos donde entra todo el ecosistema científico canario, Instituto Español de Oceanografía, Universidad de Las Palmas, Universidad de Gran Canaria, la Plocan, que tenemos mucho que decir al respecto de lo que se puede cultivar, cómo. Entonces, y eso tiene que traslocarse hacia el Departamento de Biodiversidad para abrirnos de mente y no marcar unas directrices que no se obligan en ningún país del mundo ni en el nuestro. Y solo se están a lo mejor marcando como indicaciones en Canarias. Dicho esto, pues me quedo para finalizar que tenemos consolidado el área experimental de Pozo Izquierdo con casi 20 millones de euros de inversión. Eso no lo podía haber soportado un privado. Podríamos posibilitar que se incuben esas empresas, pero siempre y cuando podamos decir, si nos ponemos todas las administraciones de acuerdo, dónde podemos pasar esa fase comercial para que esas empresas tengan esa garantía de que van a venir a experimentar siempre y cuando puedan luego pues industrializar lo que han logrado pues conseguir de adaptación de cualquier alga o microalga.
Bien, gracias Eduardo. Como ven, el tema es complejo porque llega un momento en el que cuando parece que está todo resuelto, pues aparece otro actor. Evidentemente yo invité a biodiversidad, al final pues no han podido venir, por eso eres tú ahora ponente y no eres moderador. He tenido que sustituirte, pero desde la Dirección General de Pesca, que también tienen algo que decir, pues han considerado que el técnico Magdalena Rodríguez, si digo bien, pues si quiere, pues que pudiera decir también o dar esta perspectiva desde esta otra parte de la administración. No, tienes que darle ahí.
Bueno, buenas tardes a todos. Yo vengo en representación de la Dirección General de Pesca. Nosotros somos el órgano sustantivo, los encargados de tramitar todas las solicitudes de autorización o de concesión que nos llegan. Nosotros hemos elaborado el Plan de Ordenación Regional de la Acuicultura, el PROA, y ha sido un gran avance desde nuestro punto de vista para la acuicultura. Eso ha posibilitado que se haya regulado en nuestras costas todas las zonas de interés acuícola que se pudieron abordar en ese momento, que son 30 zonas de interés acuícola. Tenemos también ya una capacidad máxima de producción aprobada y estamos llegando casi al límite que se aprobó inicialmente. O sea, esto ha tenido mucha repercusión. Tenemos importantes instalaciones en Gran Canaria, me ciño porque está el Cabildo aquí, que han sido pioneras, desde los años 80 se instalaron y han logrado tener ahora, hablo por ejemplo, le pongo nombre a la empresa Cuanaria, es una empresa súper importante que ha logrado hacer tener 3 concesiones muy interesantes, de 3.050 toneladas cada una, o sea, ya hemos aumentado muchísimo la producción y en esa línea estamos. Entonces, nosotros, desde la Dirección General, trabajamos en función de aquellas solicitudes que se nos presentan. O sea, cuando nos viene una solicitud de cualquier empresa, se analiza y se ve qué especie es la que se quiere cultivar. Hasta ahora no hemos tenido grandes problemas, bueno, con todas las especies, los peces en general, pero sí con las algas. O sea, con las algas para nosotros no vemos esa dificultad desde la Dirección General. De hecho, se han autorizado, nosotros al ITC le hemos autorizado, han logrado tener la autorización y lo único que solicitamos es si es una especie que no está incluida dentro de la relación de especies aprobadas, que figuran en el PROA y en 2 órdenes posteriores que hicimos, pues solicitar la inclusión. Ahí es donde nos encontramos con el gran problema. O sea, para nosotros, si la especie es nativa, según nuestro rango competencial, es la dirección, no la dirección, la consejería, el consejero, el que pueda admitir que esa especie forme parte de la relación de especies de interés acuícola. Pero nos encontramos con un gran problema, que es el biota y biodiversidad. Entonces, surge la discusión en qué especies consideramos nativas o no. Nosotros hasta ahora lo hemos hecho con todos los estudios científicos que nos han aportado y en base a eso, pues se han autorizado. Cuando son especies que no son nativas, entonces ya el PROA tiene previsto que se crea una comisión de valoración, de estudio, que va a estar compuesto por técnicos de transición ecológica, de biodiversidad, técnicos de la Dirección General de Pesca, de la Consejería de Agricultura, y luego personas de reconocido prestigio sobre ese elemento que se vaya a estudiar, ¿no? Entonces, esa comisión como tal ya figura, o sea, está regulada. Lo que hace falta es ponerla en marcha en función de las solicitudes. Yo en este momento en la consejería no tengo ninguna solicitud sin tramitar. O sea, yo no sé qué especies son las que hay tantas que dicen que no están, que no se han podido lograr la autorización, no lo sé, porque nosotros desde luego no las tenemos. Estamos en ese sentido bastante al día. Entonces yo lo que les invito es, cualquiera que quiera introducir una nueva especie, se tendrá que dirigir a la Dirección General de Pesca como órgano sustantivo, con toda la información posible que nos haga saber qué tipo de especie es, si es nativa, si no lo es, y en función de eso ya nos moveríamos. O sea, nosotros tenemos un marco legal perfecto. O sea, yo no creo que no tengamos marco legal, sí que lo tenemos. Tenemos un marco legal, el PROAC, pero después también en nuestro reglamento de la ley de pesca se contempla todo el procedimiento para las autorizaciones de acuicultura continental. O sea, el problema no está tanto en esa regulación. La dificultad viene más bien cuando lo que se quiera desarrollar está en dominio público marítimo terrestre, por ejemplo, porque las concesiones acuícolas, no podemos olvidarnos que cuando están en ese ámbito, tiene una doble vertiente. Hay una concesión en dominio, ese dominio es estatal, nos lo da el Ministerio de Transición, y nosotros lo que hacemos es dar la concesión de actividad. Entonces nosotros instruimos todos los expedientes, se hacen todas las consultas, habidas y por haber, se remite todo a transición ecológica y cuando se obtiene la evaluación ambiental adecuada, que sea la que no produce efectos sobre el medio ambiente significativos, entonces con todo eso que se ha instruido se manda al ministerio. Normalmente no solemos tener problemas, nos suelen dar el dominio público con los condicionantes que sean necesarios, porque también hay otro factor importante que es el tema de las estrategias marinas, ¿no? Con la aprobación del POINT, incluso esto es anterior, se establecieron todas las estrategias marinas de las diversas demarcaciones. La demarcación canaria tiene su propia estrategia también. Entonces, yo entiendo que para el administrado es una dificultad más, porque ahora no solo tienes que tener la autorización, tienes que tener la evaluación ambiental, pero también tienes que tener el informe de la estrategia marina, ¿no? Entonces, cuando se aglutinan todos esos aspectos, cada actor va a poner sus propios condicionantes, son los que luego van a dar lugar a todos los condicionantes a su vez del título concesional. O sea, tenemos un marco legal, yo creo que bastante completo. Otra cosa es que no sea complejo. O sea, complejo sí que es muy complejo, y a nosotros, por lo que nos toca, la tramitación, hemos intentado agilizarla. O sea, antes se tardaba del orden de hasta 5 años y a veces hasta más en obtenerla. Las últimas las hemos obtenido en 2, 3 años. O sea, para nosotros ya eso ha sido un logro. Y desde mi punto de vista, esto ya lo digo como técnico, podría ser mucho más rápido. Porque yo no veo tampoco tantas objeciones. O sea, si ya tenemos una planificación y hay unas zonas delimitadas, no entiendo tanta dificultad para obtener luego las concesiones, que es lo que nos estamos encontrando. O sea, no es un problema solo del administrado, que por supuesto, porque ustedes son los que invierten, sino hasta de nosotros como funcionarios o como técnicos de la administración, también nos encontramos con esas dificultades que nos encantaría, porque nosotros apostamos muchísimo por la acuicultura, que esto fuera mucho más rápido de lo que es.
Gracias, Magdalena. Como ven, son 4 visiones, aparentemente con algún punto de confluencia, y bueno, pues en cuanto se lanza algún proyecto, pues aparecen elementos del sistema que de alguna manera lo obstruye. Yo sé que podíamos estar, Alejandro, lo veo ahí inquieto, que se podían hacer preguntas, pero yo, que soy un hombre pragmático, propongo lo siguiente. De esta jornada va a salir evidentemente algún tipo, al menos en estos aspectos locales y para darle relevancia que necesita este tema, algún tipo de publicación que luego se hará y se hará difusión. Yo me comprometo a elaborar sobre en particular este tema, una especie de manifiesto de lo que aquí se ha dicho y de lo que se necesita, y evidentemente eso es a veces mucho más efectivo, sobre todo si se le hace circular a las autoridades responsables, porque al final nosotros tenemos un gobierno, que les llegue y que se pueda discutir. Y obviar ahora, porque entre otras cosas ya estamos un poco fuera del tiempo, obviar ahora aquí que cada uno dé más perspectivas, porque salvo que alguien que seguramente en otros países hay problemáticas similares quiera añadir que, bueno, en España nosotros decimos que a veces que el problema de muchos es un consuelo de tontos, ¿no? Porque exista en todos los países el mismo problema no quiere decir que los tengas que aceptar, pero salvo que sea eso, yo, y me van a perdonar, lo pararía aquí, haríamos esa declaración, la haría circular, y una parte importante de ese documento que surge de este foro sería precisamente ese manifiesto. Y a partir de ahí lo que suceda, ¿qué les parece? ¿Sí? Javier. Pues gracias, Magdalena, gracias por la percepción, gracias a todos. Pasamos on time a la siguiente sesión, si les parece. Muchas gracias. Sí, porque si no acabamos, ya está Vicente ahí para disparar. Sí, sí.
Okay, sorry. Close. Okay. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I hope you still have some energy left. So I'm Kaat van Heen. I'm from the Vives University College in Belgium. I'm a food researcher myself, and my expertise mainly focuses on processing and product development with seaweed, but also other ingredients. And I want to welcome you to the workshop From Lab to Table. As the name itself explains a bit, we want to show you or tell you a bit about how scientific knowledge about seaweed cultivation, but also food science, can help create a healthy, diverse, and sustainable food products. So today we will discuss some of the bottlenecks and challenges, but also we mainly want to focus on the opportunities of using seaweed as a food ingredient, and also look at which steps or innovations are made or can be made within the whole seaweed food supply chain. We will look at how, for example, scientific research or knowledge can help overcome some challenges. It could be technical challenges, biological challenges, to really translate that knowledge to use in practical farming solutions, and to also look at how we can cultivate seaweed so it can meet the food industry standards. Today I have 3 experts from the whole seaweed supply chain, or from different parts. I don't think that Professor Raphael needs another introduction, so I will keep it short.
I would be delighted that someone introduce me, because I've been talking to the whole day.
Okay. So Raphael is a full professor at the University of Las Palmas.
I'm happy
with
now.
an expertise in plant physiology. And he has, I think, a very impressive resume, a scientific resume. And he will tell us a bit more specifically about seaweed hatchery and the different innovations or recent innovations that are being made within the hatchery, seaweed hatchery. Next, we have Jessica Knop, who is a tenure-track scientist at NIOS, which is the Dutch Royal Institute of Sea Research, and her expertise mainly lies in cultivation of seaweed and life cycle. So she is a phycologist and mainly focuses on seaweed ecology and physiology, if I'm correct, but they will explain it better than me. And then at last, we have Professor Ilse Freyer from KU Leuven. She is a professor at and also associated to the Meat Technology and Science of Protein-Rich Foods Research Group, with the main expertise in protein-rich ingredients, but also how different kind of ingredients can change the functionality, sensorial properties, nutritional value of different food products. And she will explain a bit how seaweed can be used as a innovative food ingredient. They will explain their expertise and their vision on seaweed and foods themselves. So I think we will start with Professor Raphael Robena, and I think the PowerPoint should be available. Yes, I will.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Kat. What I'm going to to show you today is not, of course, a comprehensive traded about the hatchery and how you can cultivate seaweed. You can imagine that, but I just have 10 minutes. And also, probably, it is not the forum for that. Because when we organized this forum, we expected people not familiar actually with seaweed. Well, of course, also people from the I34 Seaweed project. And what I'm going to show you is one of the output that we have produced in this project, which is a kind of a toolkit. Well, it's a toolkit, not a kind, it's a toolkit, with which we want to show people that not familiar with seaweeds what they are and how they can cultivate, and in particular what are the different phases that a culture has to be passed through to obtain at the end a product of biomass of seaweeds for downstream application, if it is the dealing of any application. So why this? Because in my experience, since a lot of time cultivating seaweeds in the laboratory and using different methods to propagate them, particularly red seaweeds, it has been always quite difficult to make the people to understand what is a seaweed, what makes the difference. And this morning there was a clear example of that when Celine tried to mention the gametophytes, and she would stop and say, well, the people know what is a gametophyte. They're probably, yes, we know, but there are probably people here that they don't know what is it. And more important, what is the importance that to control the gametophyte, or what is the gametophyte in the frame of the production of seaweed when you have to use it. So I'm going to show you some reflections, some takeaways point that you also could find when we publish it, because the document is public. You can find, you can read it, and also we are going to split it in, with the hub that we are going to produce in the project, just to produce smallest publications. So our aim is just to disseminate this knowledge and better to make the people to understand better the seaweeds, just in case they want to invest on this sector and to see what they are actually want to put their money into this. So this toolkit has been written by these people. You have seen the name, so it's not myself, and it's comprehensive, also useful for the technical and scientific, but basically for unfamiliar people about the seaweeds. Some points, for instance, oh, sorry. Okay. First of all, the concept. Well, I'm at the end, I'm a teacher. I'm a scientist, but also I'm a teacher. So a teacher needs a concept always and a PowerPoint. It's like a drug. Yeah. So if you are in charge of something, you need to get to reach a concept, and then you put it in a nice, apparently nice PowerPoint. That's all, and you are paid for that. And in this case, we try to reach a concept of hatchery, because if you review timely references, they are kind of a mess with mixing different terminology for the same concept. So we reached the point that the hatchery is, of course, an important phase in the production of seaweeds, but it's also basic in something that the seaweeds have, which is the life cycle. So compared to, for instance, if you talk to about an apple, you know what is an apple. An apple is a fruit which is produced at the end in the gametophyte of an sporophyte. What was in my life before? Yes, you have a tree which is a sporophyte, but this sporophyte produces a gametophyte, which is the flower, well, inside the flower actually, and then it will produce an apple. So what happened with seaweeds normally is that the gametophyte and the sporophyte are two individuals separated. So in the case of the evolution, they simplified, so we have just one phase, which is a sporophyte. So if you want to produce seaweeds, you have to be aware that perhaps you have to produce gametophytes for the market, or you can produce sporophytes, because maybe different. When I say maybe, it is because the life cycles of the different seaweeds may be different. So our concept is the hatchery is based on the life cycle. It's an important, and well, we propose that hatchery is obtaining algal and propagating juvenile algae under control conditions, if it is possible. This could be combined in the same facilities with the seeding, which is just to put this young algae in a particular surface or particular material, and yet transfer to the sea, to the ocean, or also you can do direct seeding in the ocean. This is another possibility. This is another simplification of the situation, but remember, we want to explain the people to understand, not to make them to be confused, more confused than at the beginning. So a concept, a PowerPoint, we are happy. Then also we decided to go to kind of small illustrations for the species, more important species in the seaweeds that have been produced in Europe, at least. This is a living document, so we plan to add more and more species if it is demanded. So we, in this toolkit, we show the life cycle of that particular species, in this case, Palmaria palmata. And also we produce fact sheets, which is in the right part of the panel, in which we collect the information about which is the propagals, which is in this case is tetraspores, and which phase is also propagated. Providing that at this stage the reader know that, well, maybe the gametophyte, maybe the sporophytes, but they need the propagals. So this is what it was our aim. So if you read it, please send us your critics and suggestions and comments, because what we want, as I said, is that the people understand what we do. One of the main conclusions that we reach doing this toolkit is that hatchery, in spite we have a concept, still requires research and development and innovations. And as an example, you can read here something that we got from timely and updated reference, in which it recognized explicitly that in the culture of Saccharina latissima, there are two ways to feed field cultures, having a collaborator said. The more pragmatic but uncontrolled way, they said, of hatchery conditions, and the more efficient but costly way of controlled culture. What that means? We can do the things under control, or we can do the things more or less to make it to pragmatically to work to obtain some productions, but we have not the control 100%. What we think and what we add to this conclusion of this research team is that the European industry standards require control and sustainability of operation throughout the entire life cycle of the product. We cannot establish a competitive and a standard European standard industry if we cannot control all of the value chain, and the hatchery is one important value element of the value chain. That's what we proposed. So we have to work in that directions, that to ensure that at least for the species, for the more important species, we can control their growth and their production, and we can support the farmers, or we can support the industry with a production which is under control. Well, it's a challenge, I know, but this is our objective in this particular field. We also suggest 6 innovations. The first is for how to do this. What we want to do is just to introduce in vitro culture for micropropagation, not in the sense that we do with agar plant. I have some experience with agar plant. It's not the same. It is described how we want to mean when we say the usage of micropropagation, which is quite different. We also propose that use something that we have been researching since the last 20 years, which is the induction of spores for those species that depends on the spore, particularly using plant growth regulators. We use methylhexamonate, for instance, to induce the production of carpospores in some red seaweeds, which are very effective. For us, it's absolutely necessary to have genetic control of whatever you are producing. So we have, fortunately, a lot of techniques to do that. Well, we introduce a cryopreservation as a way to preserve the best strains or the best samples of seaweed that we can produce in our hatchery. And 2 more, which is to integrate the concept of microbiome, which is all of the biota associated to seaweed that may be also useful, and the use of sustainable seedling materials, because as far as we could see in the bibliography, we see that sometimes the material we are using are not so appropriate, I would say, just to say something. In conclusion, and just a key takeaways, as US standards demand quality, traceability, and sustainability. To date, from our point of view, we have identified the hatchery phase as a bottleneck in the seaweed aquaculture. The current control is limited, maybe not enough for a stable industry, and the innovations, which means more reliable seed and higher efficiency, are required. Investment, I'm now watching Catherine and the European agencies. Just investment in research and development and innovation is critical, just to support this industry in the future. And I think that's all. Thank you very much. Just with a phrase. It's not a concept, it's a phrase. Also, we like the phrases. Which is building reliable hatchery practices, to our point of view, means building the future of seaweed aquaculture. Besides, of course, other dimensions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up is Jessica. Okay.
So yeah, while I'm waiting that the presentation is coming up, yeah, also from my side, good afternoon, everybody. I hope you have a little bit of energy left to go through these last couple of talks and discussions. Closer. Okay, hopefully this is better. So yeah, we're nearly there. I'm Jessica Knoop. I'm from the Netherlands Institute for Sea Research in the Netherlands. And we're part of the I3 Seaweed project and trying to support some of the open research questions. Raphael introduced a couple of problems that we face or the entire sector faces at the moment. So from my side, I would like to give a brief introduction into the research of the Institute, but also the expertise and aspects of research we do, and how we try to contribute to solutions that hopefully help solving some of the issues we heard about or we learned about today that the sector is facing currently. So the Royal Netherlands Institute for Sea Research in the Netherlands, we have, or part of the NEOS Center, or part of the NEOS is the Seaweed Center, and you might wonder why we have a Seaweed Center in the Netherlands, because of course we have a limited coastline in comparison to France or Norway or Ireland or the UK. But even in the Netherlands, we face several challenges which are related to climate change, for example. So the Netherlands relies strongly on agriculture. But while we have a short coastline, we are impacted by the sea in many ways. For once, we are very close to the sea level, so we face seawater input from below, literally. So many areas of the Netherlands are only a couple of meters above sea level or just above sea level. So of course there are many challenges that are to be faced in the near future in terms of agriculture. So we believe that seaweeds could be a contribution to some challenges that will be faced in the sector in the coming future. But overall, what we do study, we study fundamental science of seaweed, so ecology, physiology, but also the impacts of environmental changes, for example, climate change, but also other aspects. And we hope to, with this knowledge, to improve cultivation and other applications using seaweeds. It's an entire team, of course, associated with the Seaweed Center, so you can see them on the right-hand side, led by Professor Klaas Timmermans, who is very sad not to be here today. So yeah, within that research group, we cover different aspects. And more in focus, so my vision, and I think I share this vision with a lot of different people here today, is finding sustainable solutions or contributing to sustainable solutions to some of these challenges we face nowadays. Using seaweeds, so I'm a marine biologist by training, so I try to combine fundamental understanding and biology to then improve cultivation practices and also applications of seaweeds. We use different approaches, so of course a lot of science happens in laboratories as well, but we also use field applications or field-based studies to improve our understanding of these seaweeds. The subjects of our research, cover different species. So we've learned a lot, or we heard a lot about the kelps, so Saccharina latissima, but also Alaria esculenta. But a strong focus of my research are red seaweeds, so Porphyra or nori and Palmaria or dulse, because I think they are stronger candidates for some applications, for example, in the food industry, for direct human consumption. But also green seaweed such as ulvar for different applications. And especially porphyro or Atlantic nori, how we call them as well, I think are great candidates where we have an established market, where people are used to products that are made out of nori. But of course, there's a couple of other difficulties that need to be solved before we could upscale or can upscale a nori production in Europe. And that is part of a vision that I have, because I'm convinced that red seaweeds can play a bigger role than they do nowadays. But of course, so if you see on the right-hand side, the illustration here, it's not that easy as with the kelps that we directly know the species identification. So it's a group of seaweed that looks very similar, but we have a lot of different species. And on the right-hand side, you can see just the species we found in the Netherlands and Belgium alone. So there's a huge variety and diversity of these species. And all of them, they come with their own environmental conditions that they require for successful cultivation. So a lot of research at the moment goes into quantification and developing cultivation protocols for these different species. And of course, also a question, we found non-invasive species as well. So that leads also to a discussion which we had in the past already with cases of Vandaria, which is also non-native species. Should we allow non-native cultivation or not? As a biologist, I have a very clear opinion about that. And then, of course, Raphael mentioned it already, so that's great. I don't have to go much into detail here. The life cycle control. And it sounds very basic, but the life cycle control of red seaweed especially is still difficult. We need more research here to understand the life cycle, to control the life cycle, to allow then for cultivation. And I'm not going to go into detail here. I don't want to bore you too much. But yeah, it is a complicated life cycle, and we don't have it under control as much as we do for the kelps. But that's where we also see now that the kelp, or why do we have a larger kelp cultivation? And I think part of the answer is because we know how to cultivate it, we understand the life cycle. But I think it is worth investing the time solving these issues to be able to scale red seaweed cultivation up. We're also focusing on optimizing biochemical composition of seaweeds. So seaweeds are very variable in their biochemical composition, which is on one side great because we can tweak with the composition depending on what kind of products we want to get out. But also on the other side, it's a downside for companies now that face challenges in securing investment because there's a lot of variability in the biochemical composition, for example. And while we are aware of these, there's little knowledge and really the case studies proving, okay, your pigment, protein, whatever compounds you're interested in, they can differ quite a lot. And the chance here is that in optimizing cultivation conditions, we can also optimize specific compounds of interest. Another topic we are actively researching is the attachment of seaweed. So also without going too much into detail here, but if we want to cultivate seaweeds at sea, and I think earlier today we heard already about some difficulties with different seeding aspects. So we study which techniques are better under which conditions, and we also try to optimize other seeding techniques that might be more promising for upscale production. In order to understand what can we still change and optimize to make these work. And this is for one side in order to move into offshore cultivation. So we've done a couple of trials within the United and Old Farms project because their attachment of seaweeds is very important in case we want to move further offshore. In the Netherlands and Belgium, that's a hot topic discussion because we have a very short coastline, a lot of different stakeholders, a lot of competition to use the coastline and marine space. So there, the solution at the moment is moving further away from the coast, although that comes with another range of different challenges. So overall, I think the way to move forward and solution for some of our challenges and problems are red seaweeds. The brown seaweeds are great to scale up biomass and for specific applications, but I think for human consumption and some more high value applications, the red seaweeds are more suitable. So for example, we don't have any challenges with iodine or also less problems with other contaminants like heavy metals, for example. People are used to eating red seaweeds such as nori or in the form of sushi already. So there is an established market. We don't have to go through the whole process of thinking about, okay, how are we going to sell it to people to also consume it and eat it and use it. But of course, there are still a couple of hurdles to be solved, which come down to quite basic research like the life cycle control. I think we need way more outreach and also education to bring these products to people. And I know there's a lot of effort already made, but I think we need some more. Yeah, so I think that's the main message from my side. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Kat. Good afternoon, everybody, also from my side. My name is Ilse Fraaije from KU Leuven in Belgium. First of all, I would like to thank also Raphael for organizing this day, or even these 2 days, in your wonderful island. And also for me, as a scientist, it's wonderful to be submerged in the fantastic world of seaweed, because that's actually not really my domain. I have only started working on seaweed a few years ago. So it's good for me to learn more about it. And today I learned what a gametophyte is. So thank you very much for that. I try to remember how it goes. So there are my slides. First, I would like to explain a bit what we do in our laboratory. The name of our laboratory is Meat Technology and Science of Protein-Rich Foods. I think it's a very simple name, but it's too complicated because even my own team members seem unable to remember it. Yet it's quite simple. What we do is, first of all, we work on meat technology, and this is what we have been doing for many years since I came to this research group. That was the only focus. We have a laboratory, a pilot plant actually, where we can produce all types of meat products, and different laboratories where we can analyze the quality in the broad sense. So this is where we come from, our history, but with the whole protein transition, sustainability issues related to meat, ethical issues related to meat, we decided a few years ago to broaden our perspective and to work, not only on meat products, but also on meat alternatives. So vegetarian and vegan products, well, let's say protein-rich food products in general. So we have a quite strong focus on proteins. Well, if we are not working on meat, then we have to look at other protein sources to make these products from. So we've worked on insects. It's also animals, but they have some advantages in comparison to meat. We looked at plant-based proteins, of course, and then about 2 years ago, we started thinking about algae, microalgae, macroalgae. Can they also contribute to this type of food products? So this is where the story started a bit from our side. Here are a few speeches that we have selected for our research. I'm still working on the Latin names, but I'm starting to get a bit used to them now. All of these species are approved for consumption in the European Union. There are a few more than the ones that are listed here, but that's the first issue that might come back later in the discussion. Regulations on a European level can become somewhat complicated indeed. Now, why do we think that seaweed can be interesting as a food source? From my perspective, I was hoping to see it as a protein-rich food source. It was a little bit disappointing because actually seaweeds do not contain that many proteins. We did some measurements ourselves, but of course there's a lot of knowledge about it. It's quite variable, but maybe 5 to 15% on a dry weight basis. We had one amount of 25% measured, but that was really an outlier. Most of the protein contents are a bit lower. So from my perspective, that was a bit of a disadvantage. Yet there are many, many other interesting compounds which still make these seaweeds very interesting to study from a food perspective. Many different compounds are being listed here. It has already been mentioned that the composition is very variable between species, but even within a species, you can have all kinds of contents and all kinds of properties. But yet, I listed here a few of these compounds. Not only the proteins, the polysaccharides, and the lipids can be important, but also vitamins and minerals can be quite interesting, as well as some other minor constituents. And when we see these compounds, we might think of the nutritional benefits of these compounds, but actually there's much more to it. We can really consider seaweed as a compound that can contribute to several properties of our food products. And I listed them here as technofunctional, sensorial, nutritional, and health-related properties. And I'm going to dig a bit deeper into that, because the individual constituents all contribute to different extents and in different ways to these food properties. A first one that is even the most interesting for me personally is what we call the technofunctional properties. It's maybe a special term, but what we mean with that is how can the seaweed contribute to the properties of the food product from a food processing point of view. So what can it bring to the food product with regard to technical properties? Well, the first few properties are important, like gelling capacity. This is related to the many hydrocolloids that can be present in some seaweed species. They also can bind water, they can bind fat, so that's very interesting. In addition, some of the compounds have an antioxidant or antimicrobial activity, and that means that they might contribute to the shelf life of a food product. So they can make the food product more shelf stable or more easily conserved as a function of time. Secondly, sensorial, that's a bit related to the technofunctional properties, but with sensorial properties, we mean everything that you can evaluate with your senses. And some of the important ones are color and aroma and taste. Actually, seaweed is very much known for the salt and umami taste of it. Which makes it very good candidates to be added to meat products, for example, because those tastes are very important. However, sometimes these properties can be also on a negative, from a negative point of view. Imagine you would like to use seaweed in ice creams, then the taste will be rather hindering and not what you want to obtain. Also, the color, your ice cream will be red, brown, or green. Maybe you want that, maybe you do not want that. So this can become a bit complicated. Very important is, of course, the nutritional aspect, not only the proteins and the lipids, but also some important vitamins. And here I would like to focus a little bit on the vitamin B12. I think it's something that has not been mentioned too many times yet over the past days. But for me, it's a very interesting one because we are looking at meat products and meat alternatives. Well, vitamin B12 is a vitamin that is normally only present in animal-based products, so in meat and in dairy products. In plant-based foods, the plant-based foods that we would normally consume, there is no vitamin B12 at all. So if you would be a vegan, then you would need to take supplementations of this vitamin B12. Interestingly, people have found in literature, but also, we have found it at Vives, the colleagues of Vives. I will later show all the colleagues there. They have found that probably seaweed or some seaweed species do contain a lot of vitamin B12, and even in an active form. There is a bit of a discussion. Vitamin B12 is a complex molecule. Some of the molecules, some of the variants are active and can really give you the vitamin activity. Some are not active, so they are like pseudo-vitamin, but Vives has shown as one of the first groups in the world, I think, that some seaweed species actually have this vitamin B12, so they can be a very valuable component for vegans, for example. Then finally, in literature, a lot of health benefits have been described for seaweed. They would be anti-cancerogenic, anti-allergy, anti-obesity, all of these kinds of properties. I put a bit of question marks here and a bit of a disclaimer on the bottom. These things have not been, not always been proven very scientifically. So there's more research needed to confirm whether these benefits are really true and to what extent they would be true. Anyway, a lot of benefits that the seaweed can have for our food product. And actually, we are eating already seaweed-based foods more often than we would think. And this I explain here on the right-hand side of my slides. For example, alginate, carrageenan, and agar are hydrocolloids that are used in a lot of food products. You can see them on the ingredient list, but most people do not realize that. These kind of components have been isolated from the seaweed during an extensive extraction process, and they are very, very commonly used in the food industry. However, this comes with a disadvantage. The sustainability of this extraction process is not that great. It's expensive, and also it generates side streams that are not further used in an optimal way. So, from our perspective in our research, we try to focus more on the full biomass. Can we not use the whole seaweed as an ingredient in food products? It comes with the benefit that you get all the nice properties that I just mentioned, but at the same time, that's also the drawback or the challenge, because, yeah, as I mentioned already, your ice cream will have some strange taste and some strange color, so probably ice cream is a very, very bad example that I gave on purpose, actually. But this is a bit the focus that we have in our research. There are also some barriers. I think we will zoom into them later in the discussion, but I listed a few, and it's the barriers that I see from the perspective of the food producer. Of course, in cultivation, there are many more challenges and barriers, but as a food producer, why is it difficult to get the seaweed biomass into common food products in Europe? Well, the first one is the seaweed supply. It is still cheaper to purchase seaweed in Asia and in other parts of the world. In Europe, it's still a bit difficult. I see many producers here, and this area is developing fast, but still there are some challenges. It's difficult to find a good supply of seaweed in Europe at a good price. Secondly, food safety. The iodine has been mentioned so many times, the heavy metals, the allergens. Again, there's a lot of variability. Not all the species have it. I completely agree with Jessica that it's very species dependent, of course, but still some worries about that. Also, there seems to be a lot of variability. We did some measurements on different batches of seaweed that were purchased from different suppliers, and the composition and the properties can vary a lot because of cultivation, because of downstream processing. How was the product dried? How was it stored? How was it packaged? It can all influence the properties. So this variability is a challenge for the food producer because you want to make a standardized food product. You don't want to get this variation. Also, for a food producer, they get this new ingredient, seaweed, and they have absolutely no idea how to handle it. What are the benefits? What are the drawbacks? There is no knowledge about that. So this is where we come in with our participation in these products, I think. And then finally, there's the perspective of the consumer. Of course, people eat sushi, that's great, but for the rest, why would we eat seaweed? Here in Europe, it's not common, and new things are often scary for people. So how can we convince the consumer that seaweed has benefits and why it can be interesting to consume it? That's also a point to work on, because if a food producer brings a product to the market with seaweed and nobody buys it, then we again have a problem for sure. Then finally, I would like to thank all my team members, and that's not just from my group. This is the whole Belgian consortium, let's say, that is working on seaweed. You all have seen Kat and her colleagues from Vives. campus, who we cooperate very closely with. And then we have Fien and Flore from KU Leuven. And then in the I3 project, they are not involved, but here on the bottom you see Professor Foubert and her colleagues from a lab at KU Leuven who work on the lipid part of the lipids and the lipid-soluble components of the seaweed. And there we cooperate in a local project that's called the C3Weed project that we have funding from KU Leuven for that. So thank you to all my seaweed colleagues.
Okay, thank you. Before we go to any questions from the audience, we will first have a short panel discussion and you will have a chance to pick in. So a lot of aspects were already mentioned in your presentations, but one of the main questions is how can seaweed hatchery and cultivation, that's mainly a question maybe to Rafael and Jessica, be better aligned with the food industry needs for consistent quality, safety and functionality of raw materials. So yeah, you already mentioned it a bit, but maybe you can reiterate it a bit. Yes, maybe Rafael or Jessica.
Okay, I start and then you take over. Yeah, I think a lot was mentioned indeed in the presentation. So I think there's a bit of a mismatch of the species that are very interesting for different applications, specifically red seaweeds. And then, yeah, the variation comes not just in terms of the hatchery, but also, of course, cultivation conditions. And it depends whether the seaweed are cultivated on land or at sea. So I think they're understanding better the impact of environmental conditions. And as you say as well, you measured many different products with a lot of variation in terms of the composition. I think understanding these mechanisms better will help and trust or build also up trust from the downstream processor, but also then the consumers, I think.
I would like to add that this morning it was also discussed that whether we should go for a plethora of seaweeds or just to concentrate in a few species, considering that the effort we have to put in the research and development, trying to control the life cycle and the very beginning phase. So I'm keen to go for selected species and to concentrate on them. That's also unveil the importance of this particular phase of the hatchery in the process of producing seaweed.
I don't know if there are any questions about the hatchery and cultivation part from the audience or not. Otherwise, we will go to the next question. So we talked a bit about legislation, but maybe we can mainly focus on specifically foods. So what policies, standards, or incentives could best accelerate the safe and sustainable scaling of seaweed foods? So both from a cultivation point of view, but also from an industry point of view. We talked a bit about the novel foods legislation, but also, for example, I think about maybe the legislation about safe incorporation or heavy metals, iodine, microbiology standards is not really an European, but maybe I'm answering the question a bit myself, so I will give the floor to you.
Yeah, I think indeed, I think a lot of companies struggle at the moment that only a certain amount of species are added on the food list, on the European food list. So I think although a lot of species have been added through some incentives over the especially last year, and I think there's way more that could be added. And for companies, it's very difficult and it needs a lot of information, research, but also capital to add species to the food list. And I think that is a part, because some species are so similar, like given the Porphyris, for example, I think Porphyrum umbilicalis is on the list and Dioica, but we have a couple of more species that are very similar, but they're not on the list. So I think these things that could be very helpful to solve.
Well, I think it would also be valuable to have maximum levels of heavy metals and other toxic compounds that are allowed in seaweed. Maybe that's a difficult point. I'm not a legislation expert at all. But what we know now is amounts that are toxic for a human. So if we consume a certain amount of heavy metals, we know what levels can be tolerated and what levels we should avoid. But in order to translate that to the level of those compounds that can be present in the seaweed, we would need to calculate how much seaweed are people expected to consume, how much would be incorporated in the food products, and that's a very difficult question. So we really don't know what kind of heavy metals we can accept in the seaweed in order to be safe for consumption in the final food product. I'm not sure if that's just a legislative aspect or some point that we need to work on more, at least.
Then maybe one of my final questions is, if we look at across biology, cultivation and food science, what are the critical bridges we must build between lab and industry to help unlock seaweed potential? I think it's also a bit covered, but maybe from the partners involved here, how could we better work together to really cover that gap in knowledge?
Well, yes, you're right that we have covered in our talks basically, but I would like to add that perhaps this kind of events will be very helpful, just to give information in both sides. Scientists, we have our own perspective about the things, and of course the entrepreneur, they have their own. So whether what we could support is not just to produce the best method for the propagation. It's not also to have absolutely control of the life cycle of a particular seaweed, but also to see and to hear whether this seaweed is well cost effective production. I mean, you need the economic perspective, and this economic perspective is not, at least in my case, it's not in my portfolio always.
Yeah, maybe to add there as well. Yeah, I totally agree. What is really important, having these meetings between different stakeholders, but I think it also has to go further and really reaching out, trying to connect with the general public, more transdisciplinarity, to also enhance the acceptance of seaweed as a food source in the general public. And I think there we need more cross work between the producers, but also the consumers, and probably also the processors, because I think you mentioned, and we've heard this earlier as well, that if you translate it to, or on a commercial scale, into large food processing companies or industries that are not sure how to treat it or what to do with it. So I think there's definitely more work needed on that side as well.
In many of our products on protein, other protein sources or on other food products, it is mentioned that we need to work from farm to fork, so from agriculture up to the consumer. I think here we need to work from seed to society. So starting from the cultivation, follow up the whole chain, post-harvest processing, food processing, up to the consumer, up to the society, the people who want to consume it. And this whole chain is currently not yet developed, has a lot of issues. So I think working on that chain and getting the cooperation between all of these stakeholders would be a very valuable asset.
I don't know if there's any questions in the public about the use of seaweed in food, or the... No? Go ahead. Wait, they will...
No. Maybe.
Pas op, ik had stuk aan de microfoon.
It's on? Oh. Yeah, maybe I keep it far away. So there is a recommendation from the EU for a certain limit. The problem, certain countries think it's not safe enough. So Germany and France, for example, they have stricter regulation. They turn it into a regulation in their country. It's not a legal document, binding by court system, but it's recommendation, and of course the buyer, they follow that. They don't want to take any risk because the producer has to guarantee to their consumer. So and today there is a consultation through all the food authority in Europe to establish those levels. So I don't know if it end up into a regulation, a legislative document, or it will stay a recommendation. But I think a lot of problem we have is there is a regulation like any food product, and I don't think seaweed should be treated any different but salads. If there is heavy metal in salad, I'm not eating that salad neither. But as you say, how much proportional to the percentage? So there are many publications in the last year calculating for not just heavy metal, but also iodine. We have done tons of calculation for kelp. But the problem is if in addition the national governance decide to be even stricter than what EU recommend, then I think those countries where this happen, it should be also a discussion from the stakeholder to their regulatory agency and say, why are you doing that? Because EU is the recommendation, why do we do it worse? So I think there is a discussion to have, and actually those were to put to protect the consumer. We have to remember this is important. We don't want children or pregnant women to have problems because they are eating seaweed. That will be very bad for the seaweed industry. So we should not push it, but any other food product. But we need a decision for sure on that. But the EU is right now discussing, consulting the industry. There has been, I don't know if you have been in part of this process, but they have asked all over Europe, the food authority has been asking what should be the limit. Right now, the calculation, I have to say, is weird to my understanding. So let's hope when this consultation is finished and this negotiation, because it's always a negotiation, are done, we have some level that are a little more clear. But I think what is it today, we can reach it with some seaweed. And even small quantity, we calculate it with 3 grams of kelp or 2 grams of kelp a day, or less than a gram when your product is, because kelp has also a lot of variation in those compounds, you can manage. And I can tell you 3 grams of dry kelp per day, I don't eat that, it's too much. Yes, so, and there is 2 problems. There is heavy metal is accumulation. So every day 3 grams with high content is not a good idea. When iodine, if you're deficient in iodine and you get too much iodine, it's not dangerous if you're a healthy individual. The problem is over time, of course, if you're a healthy individual. For not healthy individual with thyroid problem, yeah, avoid kelp. So I think we are making, I think, the story scarier than it is. And we need maybe to understand what it means, protecting the consumer and make sure our consumer of seaweed are safe, but it's also the job of the producer to inform their consumer. So maybe more information to the consumer, that the consumer learn how to use this. And the last thing is why China is eating, and Japan, kelp every day. They also have high iodine. It's because the lady in the house know how to prepare a dry kelp. You never put a dry powder of kelp in the Chinese recipe or in a Japanese recipe. There is a lot of washing going on. And by washing, you're taking the minerals away. So I think it's also the work of the industry to inform their consumer how to use. It's a new product. How should I cook it? And I think there are classes about that. And I think we should, because now we have pushed the product as a powder to add to salad and so on. But for kelp, I think we need to rethink the cooking aspect of it. So that's just try to lower the problem with this iodine and heavy metal, because I don't see it as a problem. It's just we need to work around it and communicate better about it.
I think the main problem, yeah, of course, it's as any food product, as well as fish. I think if they're just, because the main problem is as we as scientists are not completely clear how can we advise food companies if, for example, France and Germany have different guidelines. As a food company, you don't work mostly within the borders of your own country. So we really have to look at an European level how we can get the general consensus. I don't know if there are any other questions. Or we don't have time. Okay, thank you for your attention, and we will go to the last workshop of the day.
And I do the main one or this one? This one, the main one. So, in the meantime, that my presentation will be projected on this. It's no, I'm open. Okay, so in the meantime that they prepare my presentation, because I'm a bit like Raphael, I don't move without a PowerPoint, without even if I'm not a professor. So I would like really to say, so I'm Caterina Verden and I work in executive agency of the European Commission. So I'm from the European Innovation Council and Small and Medium Enterprise Executive Agency. Especially, so in particular, I'm in a team that is in charge of the implementation of the I3 instrument, so the Interregional Investment Innovation Instrument. That is indeed the one that just this project I3 for Seaweed is under indeed is financed by our instrument, and I would like to take literally 10 seconds for thanks everybody for the organization of this super 2 inspiring 2 days, meaning obviously Raphael, so the Professor Rebola. Yeah. So then the rector, that is Professor Serra, the University obviously of Las Palmas, Gran Canaria, the hospitality of Casa Africa today, so the Professor Segura Clavel, and of course the coordinator of the project that is behind indeed this nice adventure I hope that you all are living, that is Daniel Silva with the other members of his team, like I know Oriane, I met Hugo, I don't know, someone else from the F6S. So and now okay, I also still just a couple of minutes because I was thinking, okay, I'm the last speaker. That's quite heavy role. Normally I'm one of the first, but it's interesting because I took so many inputs that I would like just to briefly address to some of the presentation I heard during the day. So for example, I would like to complement for sure the one of Wagner about the European funding landscape. Right now, and especially related to the next multi-annual financial framework. Obviously, I cannot disclose any information more than what you see online because the negotiation is just started. Literally, the proposal has been published in July. It's a long journey. What is going to happen the next 2 years? And believe me, I've been involved in the last 3 negotiations. And from different perspective, once I was a researcher, then I was at the parliament, then I was at the commission, and whatever are the figures that right now you see, okay, they will not be the final. Let's say that most of the main point highlighted by Wagner, I share personally, and I think also professionally can say that it's going to be a huge revolution in some sector. And since I'm from the cohesion policy, so indeed our what we call it parent DG, so parent director general of our instrument, the I3. So the regional policy, we are glad to see that cohesion policy, regional policy are really under the spotlight. So we feel quite confident that indeed the funds gonna be there, but we don't know how. Obviously, taking into account that the political situation of Europe now in each of our country and what you see also in Brussels, it's a bit confusing. This is a matter of fact, so it's not my opinion. Okay, I start now with my presentation. And so just to give you a bit an overview what I'm going to present you today. So I try to select some of the funding opportunities that are currently ongoing, so they are open or they are coming, so they will be published very soon. I honestly didn't focus a lot on research, like was requested in the last panel. Because I identified some of them, they are for the scalability. So my point of view will be really on focus on what we call it innovation actions. So this is jargon that we use. Innovation action are for innovations with high TRL. Where the funding percentage is between 70-100%, depending on the nature of the entity. So obviously I will take the opportunity to present and to illustrate a bit how this project, that is I3 for Seaweed, completely represent, for example, our instrument. And then I will close a bit my presentation with some ideas about how, anyway, despite this fragmented landscape that is ongoing on the regulatory, on the technical, and also in some aspect also the funding, to be honest, scenario right now, I'm sure that the blue economy and especially the seaweed ecosystem can be one of the targets of the European Union, and I'm sure that will be. So in how, and especially for fostering competitiveness, that is a key word. You will hear a lot. I mean, if you follow European news, you read the European policy papers, because as mentioned also by Wagner, our former prime minister, but also former director of the European Central Bank, so Mr. Draghi, delivered a quite complex but also very targeted study to the Commission of Ursula von der Leyen, saying that competitiveness is really the key for Europe, for finally facing some. And there is also a post of this document that has been not yet published, but he presented in some points, and he's a bit saying to the Commission that we are not going in the right direction, for example. But let's see. So now, what we do in my team, the I3 instrument. Why I3? Because we do interregional innovation investment. So we want to see those 3 dimensions represented in your project. And indeed, this is a very nice picture prepared by the communication colleagues of the European Commission. So where we see that indeed the I3 instrument proposal, so project, they should include an interregional dimension with partners that they are minimum 3 or 5, depending on the call. I will tell you that there are different calls under our funding scheme, and from different member states, obviously for representing regional ecosystems. Then we expect to see an innovation dimension, and as I told you, also in our case we have mostly indeed focus on innovation action, so very high TRL. So our target is really the marketability, so the scale up of any action, and the business cases that are, for example, the part of the project I3 for Seaweed, with a strong innovation and impact oriented to the market. So then under our instrument is for 7 years we have available 490 millions. Honestly, originally we had another figure much more higher, but with the crisis of Ukraine and other crises, they decide to take some of the funding schemes for creating some support, for example, for Ukraine. And our project, they can go up to 10 million. Honestly, okay, we say 10 million, but for example, I'm a policy advisor or a project advisor of one of 11, so if it's well explained, we can go a bit further this limit. And especially about this point, I would like to say that, yes, for sure, for the next, maybe if we will have really the I3 or how it's going to be structured, the I3 instrument in the next multi-annual framework program, we hope to have more open perspective about the amounts that we can provide per project. Saying that, I also would like to say that I3 is a super nice instrument because we foster a lot of synergies. So you can take then support, financial support from wherever you want. And you have to tell us that you did it, because for us it's an additional point, while in other programs it's not like this. There are not possibility for synergies. So it's so we are very open to the possibility to see your action then co-founded by other instruments, national, regional, European. And I also try to foster, like, for example, I would like to do with your project as well. So then we finance until 70%, 100% for the SMEs in case of cascade funding. That is exactly what Oriane explained you and presented you before. And proposal should be under these three main topics, so that are online with the digital agenda and the Green Deal and all the policy right now. Indeed, the main focus of this commission, the one of the von der Leyen. So how is structured the I3? So we publish annually 3 calls with 3 different topics, not topics, sorry, but target, more or less. So the first one is strand 1. In this case, we would like to have proposals that are focused on smart specialization areas. So they are aligned with what is ongoing in the area and in the regions, sorry, that will be part of the consortium. Then we have the second call that is focused on developing value chain in less developed regions, in develop or in create or in trying to support financially the value chains in less developed regions. And then we have a third call that is called the CAP2B, capacity building, strand 2B. In this case, our focus is really on less developed regions in trying to create something that can become a value chain. So and then the last box that you see is a super nice services and tool that we create inside the I3 with the support of external contractor, called it I3 Support Facility. With this instrument, we provide several services. So technical assistance for project. We organize monthly webinars in how to handle the project, in how to build and reinforce your value chain, in how to inspire the other members of the consortium, how to fill all the financial sheets. We do also some more boring sites, but the idea is really to accompany our community during this amazing, what we hope is a journey of coordinating an I3 project. But also for we try to support, and we will propose some now workshops about building a better business case, business plan for SMEs. So there are plenty of ideas, and everything is published online. So I can provide you then, if you go in the main page of our instrument, that is the I3 instrument, then you find all the links to all of them, and you can subscribe to a newsletter. So you will receive really weekly all the information in about all the services provided by the I3 SF. So this is a very nice slide because I explain very well what we want to do with our instrument, or what we are our expectations. So basically we start from, and sometimes we had now the first case of a capacity building project that was presented at the beginning of the financial framework, the current one, and where so the proposal should be really in trying to have to put together all the actors like, academia, regional, public, clusters, and private, of course, all together for building what might be a beginning of a value chain. And this we finance with the CAP2B, the capacity building. So the part that you see in the box on the left side. Then if you succeed in this, you can apply for the next call, that is the strand 2A. So where indeed, finally you have the actors all together, you have an idea of the value chain, there are some potential, very market obviously oriented. So apply for the next call. We are super happy to support you for the next step. The next step is give you the money for indeed reinforcing and finally develop the value chain. All those two calls are especially related to less developed regions, because we are under the cohesion policy. So our main target is always trying to help what might be classified as less developed regions. And then the last phase, but okay, it's applying for the strand 1, even if for strand 1, honestly, there are some additional peculiarity, that is the alignment to the smart specialization areas, strategies. So what is this smart? Basically, all of your regions are invited to prepare some papers that are called the Smart Specialization Strategy. It's not mandatory, but most of them they am in the different sector. I identify, and I will tell you in another slide, that in many now European regions there is a target obviously on blue economy in a very wide way, but let's say in some of them there are some identification now related to the sector of the seaweed, and those are very important. I mean, those are part of this work done by your regions is super important, because the idea of our instrument is to be to work on a bottom-up approach. So we don't want to choose your topic. It's the region that should tell us which are the priority, and we discuss with them and we understand, okay, this is valuable. We see some potential. But so it's so important that you discuss and you have this, for example, I appreciated a lot the panel organized by Raphael, having all the different level of understood of the people involved in this sector here in the Canary Island, especially maybe in Las Palmas, for influence them, because they have to deliver those papers, and based on those papers we work. I mean, it's not us that we decide. What is also nice about the I3 instrument is that we are looking for consortia that represent the what we call it the quadruple helix stakeholders. So the four main actors, stakeholders of a value chain. So from the academia, public authorities, research center, and end users. So any clusters or the association of consumers, they are super welcome in our project, for example, to see which is the reply and the demand from the other side. And so what I can tell you more, so the geographical balance. So it's very important that indeed the consortia under our project, they represent more developed, less developed, and transition regions. So we try to see, and we would like to see all of them involved with different roles, which is the know-how that you can transfer among you, and for making a strong value chain in a specific area that might be less developed. But and indeed market demand, scalability, that I told you several times, but this is a very key point of our instrument. So and then yeah, oh, I'm sorry, the slide in this case is a bit confusing. But okay, I hope you can understand, because I was trying to think which might be a valuable value chain in your sector. So going from the cultivation, farming, and then indeed, so whatever is related to innovation, packaging, market, and then obviously which are the impact and the sustainability. And so what I would like to highlight in this slide is that applying for our instrument, they risk your investment, because under this project, so you identify some business cases, so some SMEs, or like we saw presenting today, some of them, and they risk their investment, so they can really see if it works for the market, how it works for the market, and I think this might be super supportive for them. Last few information about our instrument. So currently this is what we have spent so far. So out of the 490 million, so we have already allocated 154 for the investment 1. Sorry, this is a slightly minor mistake. And then we have 147 for investment 2A and CAP 2B, so the two calls that are focused on less developed regions. Don't forget that the legislator really asked us to have, at the end of the implementation of the instrument, an equal distribution of the budget among the two main actors, less and more. And so we have the last CAP 2B call is going to be open now in October. We have an info day that will be the 3rd of December. And I can provide you all this information. That's not a problem. Or you can go in our webpage and you'll find everything. And there are now 2 currently open call related to the investment 1 and the investment 2A that will close now at the end of this month. But don't worry, because we will have other 2 calls per each strand. So at least 4 possibility for you, for example, if you have ideas and you have something to present under our instrument. And then, as I told you, we developed this additional service, so you can indeed scan the QR code, because there you find plenty of services, and it's super nice. We are working so much on this instrument, and that is the support facility, and all feedback as well. They are welcome. I mean, if you are looking for something that maybe you don't see that we are developing, please do not hesitate. I mean, we are a small team, but we are very responsive. And so now, what is my interpretation now? I try to summarize some points related to my interpretation of the Blue-Bioeconomy with the cohesion policy, that is the cohesion that under which the I3 has been created, and the smart specialization strategies that I was presenting before. I see a lot of potential, because indeed, I mean, the cohesion policy is looking for all these points that you see in bold, and your sector is indeed might be a key actor, and there are just already some of the aspects you see represented in some papers that were highlighted by Celine, if I remember, and other speakers. But the economic dimension is super important under the cohesion, and indeed this is considering also which are the areas that might be involved by the blue economy. Less developed and transition regions are main actors. So then the territorial cooperation, so between indeed for creating complementarity strength between the areas, the sustainability impact, obviously, the inclusive innovation, because it's a creation of new jobs and skills, as we say, during the 2 days, to be honest, and the creation of the value chain. So, and for the smart specialization areas as well, I think that the Blue-Bioeconomy, it's plenty of potential. So, And indeed, there are some already examples of collaboration that are clusters that are ongoing right now. Like, for example, I don't know if the person from Netherlands know this one of the sea farmers. So the biomass association that has been managed by, mentioned already also by someone of you. And then I would like, those are some current and also upcoming funding opportunities. So obviously there is always Horizon Europe because it's the biggest one. So in cluster 6, there are plenty of indeed action addressed to your sector. Then I would like to mention, and I will do in details, one of the joint undertakings that it's circular bio-based joint undertakings that they have specific calls on seaweed and macroalgae and bio-based project in general. Then there is the cascade funding. For example, I found this co-pilot that they just opened a call, but together with the other call that were presented by also Oriane before. There are some partnership ongoing, like the Blue Partnership, that is a European partnership on blue economy. The Just Transition Fund, and this I was discussing with Lorraine, I think yesterday, if I will remember. So there are part of the Just Transition where focus on bioeconomy, where there are some initiatives quite important, and I found the one on Ireland for 10 million. So they select 2 projects of 5 million each, related really to seaweed. And so more in details related to the Horizon Europe. So as you see, so the cluster 6 is really focused on what I consider should be your focus. And there are calls under the different destinations, what they call, so areas of impact. I think some of them, they are even open right now. And the funding size really goes between 3 and 12. So quite important, I would say. Those are for innovation action. So always high, identify really only high TRL. And they can cover until 100% of the eligible cost, but this I highlighted already, as I said before, depends on the nature of the entity. So the 100% normally it's for SMEs, to be honest. Otherwise, we are around the 70 or 80, depends. And so there are some tips also from my side how you could structure a proposal under the Horizon, I think, considering what I read more or less in their call. And then I also would like to present you another, that is the Circular Bio-Based Europe joint undertaking. So what is a joint undertaking? It's a public-private partnership. So basically consider that we have the 3 trillion that were mentioned by 2 trillion, sorry, were mentioned by Wagner of funding schemes, and obviously we don't manage all by ourselves. There are different implementing bodies. So the main actors are for sure the executive agency. ISMEA, the one where I work, is one of them. But then we have other implementing body for the funding schemes, and this is the joint undertakings. So joint undertakings are also based in Brussels, not far from us, for example, and they are public-private partnership, because basically while an executive agency is basically the European Commission, in their case is really a partnership with private actors. And so they have quite substantial calls ongoing. They are per sector, so there is a joint undertaking on aviation, one on bio-based, one on high computing, for example, the one based in Luxembourg on health. So there are several of them, but this one really, there are plenty of, at least under the innovation action, I identified this year, they published 3 calls. And they are very interesting because then they do they manage project like us. So we project with then cascade funding. So they open call in their project as well. And honestly, I'm really in contact with someone inside that I know. Let's see if I manage to create some bridge as well. So for you, in your project especially, I was thinking to create some synergies. But yes, do not forget to check their website because also it's super nice. I mean, what they do in different domain of the bio-based industry. And just to tell you that all this call for proposal, we have only one website. You find everything there. That is the founding and tender portal. Super easy website. On the left side, you can select keywords of whatever you are looking. I remember I attending another meeting like 3 months ago, and they say, yeah, there are not so many calls on hydrogen. Just opening the website and really on live, I found like, on hydrogen in addition, Wagner, you will agree with me. We are giving even too many money. So there were 5 pages, web pages of calls on hydrogen. I was like, sorry, you have just to identify which is the one that suits you more. And so do not forget really to visit the founding and tender portal, especially because, okay, maybe for the, honestly, I found quite a friendly user. Not all web page of the European Commission are easy, to be honest, but that one is quite okay, I have to be honest, especially because on the top of the web page you find a lot of guidance, documents and videos. So if you are identify something, then for example you can read so how I can create, what I have to do, which are the initial steps, and there are really even YouTube videos that show you step by step what to do. So I invite you to visit, I mean, the founding and tender portal, and you find all funding opportunities of European Commission, managed by us, managed by joint undertaking, whatever is going about yes, funding opportunities of European, they are there. So Interreg, STEP, the one that you were discussing yesterday was presented by, and so this is a final conclusion that I was preparing between yesterday and today, to be honest. I think that we in Europe, usually we have a systematic approach. So a systematic approach means that, and especially in the last years, we have an approach that is place-based and systematic. So we do not look at the extensive cultivation or huge subsides that you see in Asia, for example, because then, or whatever you see also with the venture capital in North America, for example, I read some articles. I think it's really important that we always keep this dimension, and this is why, because we need to ensure one of the strengths of the European Union that has been mentioned also by Alejandro, for example, so and also by the lady that, sorry, I didn't get the name of Maddalena, and this the sustainability. So in Europe, we want to do, and also for all the regulatory, whatever papers that or discussion tables that are ongoing, the main topic in European Union is the sustainability. So we cannot do anything without taking into account this principle, because otherwise we are, I don't know, going against our main value. This is my idea, not only personal, but I would say really professional, because sustainability is a mantra of our job, especially in our instrument, but in all, honestly, offices of the European Commission. And there are other dedicated programs. Some were already mentioned by Céline, for example, or by Wagner. So related also to the European Maritime Fisheries and Aquaculture Fund, or there is indeed some missions like restore our ocean and waters. Voila. That's my last slide, and thanks a lot really for keeping the attention. Thank you.
So a dress up.
You put the jacket for me. Wow, thank you. I mean, it doesn't happen so often anymore.
No, well,
so thanks a lot.
Just, I mean, well, any question?
Please.
Yeah.
Please.
Oh, good.
If it's about UK, no, we don't finance UK. I'm sorry. And you know the reason. But let's hope for the negotiation of the next multi-annual financial framework.
Yeah, well,
If now that the situation apparently in your country is more
friendly.
European friendly, maybe
Yes.
you will be financed again.
Yeah, it was a mistake. It was a big mistake. I wasn't part of it. I became a citizen only last year, so they did it before. I didn't have a voice.
Berlusconi was the prime minister in Italy. Everybody was like, "How is possible that Berlusconi?" No, I don't vote.
Yeah.
That's a Brexit.
But this is
more or
live.
less the same thing.
This is live. So I don't know where we are going. Well, that was part of the question, and UK is out. So thank you for answering before.
To be honest, I have to be really sorry. Now it was a joke because obviously that morning when I wake up at 7 o'clock for seeing the results of that referendum, you can imagine that for a person that has been worked and studied
Yeah.
for quite a long, it was a kind of very negative parenthesis of our story. But anyway,
For many.
Other horizon, no, there are the results of some negotiation, especially with now the current government, open some doors related to research. Don't ask me in details because I'm not involved. But if you are really interested in some specific instrument, I can put you in contact with the offices and the teams that are in charge.
Well, thank you very much for that. And obviously, yes, I am interested, and I will obviously message you.
Because it's a big one.
Of course. Yes. The other thing is when you mention, this is maybe a stupid question, but I will ask. When you mention less developed regions, well, how do you define this? Because for me, less developed, it is developing countries, for example, where I came from, originally from Egypt, for example. But do you mean this is less developed within the European Union or?
Honestly, this is a classification that is done by the Director General of Regional Affairs of the European Commission, and it's published. They do systematically, they renew a bit the list. I don't know, I would say it's 3-4 years, more or less, they renew. And based on a matrix of factors, so it's not only the income per capita, to be honest. They classify then the region as less, more, or transition.
Yeah.
So it's published, it's a document that is available on our website, because obviously we work based on those documents and on the region.
Yeah, but they are within the European Union. They are not
yes,
out. So they are not like developed.
Cohesion policy. In our case, there are some part of the cohesion strategy that are addressed to other extra EU countries. I'm sorry, I cannot provide you because I really never work on development and cooperation, that what we call it. But yes, no, in our case, it's really within EU countries.
Thank you very much for that.
Yes, thank you for this very nice summary. I have a question because this morning they were indicating we need to collaborate more with the African country, and especially around the Mediterranean Sea, because what we do on one side affect the other side. So I was wondering how the ETC country, but on the other side of the Mediterranean Sea, can be involved in Horizon? Can they, in the new program?
It's really part of the answer that I provide to, sorry, I don't know you. Celine, it depends really. There are some part of the funding schemes ongoing that are open to extra EU, but I mean, it's quite big, and complex. I'm not involved.
Because of the situation, I'm sorry, but because I'm going to be more clear in my question. The situation today, for example, a collaboration with Israel.
We closed everything.
Yes.
It's official. I mean, I'm not.
Yeah.
We received a position paper of.
Yeah, that was the last week in the parliament. But what about Tunisia, Morocco, Algeria, which are is no, yeah, and of course Egypt, down to Egypt. I know the other side is critical, and that's problematic for collaboration between scientists.
So I don't disclose any, let's say sensitive information. I can tell you that. So about Israel, yes, it's official, as you know. Yes. I mean, there has been also a kind of first time that the European Parliament has disclosed such a paper and a position so clear. So we are freezing all, indeed, and it's sorry because there are a lot of researchers like you and university that they live on those funds. So voila, everything is frozen for the time being. Related to the North Africa or anyway, we didn't receive any information about it. Then there is obviously always the very depending and a stable situation with Hungary, but this is not related to us, as you know, because it has been the consequences of the last dictatorial, let's say.
I was also in a project where we have to stop a large cost action. We have to stop the
official information you find in the funding tender portal. So also all, unfortunately, Hungarian institutions, they are freezed.
But then,
obviously, the Russia as well. They are. We are currently not really putting in standby.
But then it's another question, maybe not at your level. I need to go to the parliament to ask it. But I think there is, of course, in certain case, like these two cases we are discussing, the EU Commission take action. But I think in terms of scientific collaboration, we should be above that, because politics should not, when we are working with developing of technology or fundamental research, at least this should be a law, because it makes me think about World War II, where all scientists has to move to US to do independent research. That's really sad to enter this. So I don't know if the EU Commission is planning to, when we are developing huge program like the Horizon and trying to really push innovation in Europe, we are losing lots of good brains by stopping collaboration. That has nothing to do. I don't even sometimes support.
Very high level question that you're posing to a simple project advice. So I can tell you my point of view, but later during a cocktail, not in a recorded.
Yes, of course. Okay, sorry for this tricky question, but I think it's it's pity when we have to, when we are very good collaboration, very high level scientists working with you, and you can't talk to them anymore. It's
what I can say is only that obviously the main focus of the European institutions is the European citizens, European academia, European enterprises. So this is our priority.
Thank you.
One last question, Flavia. Be brief. Yeah, but two Italian talking, so it's gonna be very risky situation.
No, don't worry. Caterina, only if you can confirm that the co-funding for Innovation Action is 70%.
Depending on the program, there are some of them
okay.
Even a bit upper,
okay, for no-profit.
You have to identify the call.
Okay.
Each call for proposal is well written. When it's 70, if it's upper than 70, and if there is the 100% for SMEs.
Okay, and can you also explain briefly the mechanism of cascade funding that you explained before, but I was starving and I did not memorize?
So, not in all European projects or not in all call for proposal, but in some of them, we open this possibility that it's not mandatory. For example, in the project they decide to include. So we just tell them, okay, try to use part of the budget, if you can, if you want, in opening other call by yourself with the supervision, obviously, of the European Commission. So I've been involved partially with, as I can, in supporting Oriana and Daniel in drafting their call. Obviously, they have to respect some requirements that are already defined in the initial call for proposal to which they applied and they been successful. And then they decide, obviously, the topic that should be linked to the one of the ongoing project, and they open those call for proposal. In the case of IT instrument, we ask them to distribute no more than 60,000 euros per SMEs. So then there are other call, like I was seeing, there are 10,000. So depending, obviously, and internally, so within the consortium, they decide also which are the members, which are the beneficiaries that will be involved in the evaluation. Obviously, as always, in my case, I will supervise, I will support, I will advise as well, Daniel, in all this procedure until we will have the successful one for the call that just been open at the end of August under this project. So it's an additional instrument, call it financial support to third parties, or in Jergo we say cascade funding, because we give to you and then you give to others. It's the financial support to third parties, because it's the third to the consortium existing financed by us. It's quite valuable instrument, to be honest. I like it. I mean, obviously, the visibility. There is a major barriers for these cascade fundings. They are published always on the funding and tender portal. Also those. So you find in this website that I was telling you, called Funding and Tender Portal, also all the cascade funding currently open in ongoing. And as I told you, it's quite valuable instrument, and because you can, there are people involved in a sector, like for example Seaweed, that they can address, they can have the target already. Obviously the visibility, it's always a bit limited, restricted, related to a call that I published, that my agency published, and where you see everywhere. Obviously, in their case, we work a lot. I mean, I support also in this case a lot my coordinators in trying to spam as much as we can the publication. But let's see that if there is a really a real commitment of the other beneficiaries, might be key. Because there are all people, you know, there is the university, there are the local entity, there are the enterprises, and they are focused on that domain, and the call will be on that domain. So, and this is for everything. I mean, now it's in Seaweed, but I follow another one that is on hydrogen, another one is on plastics, so depends.
So I think we reached the end of the, but first of all, I would like to thank Katerina. Katerina is our PO of the project, so supposed to be just yesterday here, just supervising our job, and but she decided to join this forum. Just as you can see, is introducing the financial elements of the European Commission, which is good. As far as we can see from discussion, we have no more time, but we have some time more at the networking that we are going right now. So I have to call the coordinator of the project, Daniel. Please come to the. Thank you very much, Catherine. First on?
I can go first.
Okay.
So I will be brief, as I know we are short in time. And first of all, I cannot go without saying and thank you a lot to Rafael for organizing these 2 wonderful days, and also the team that is supporting you, of course, and to the university for providing the facilities for the General Assembly that we had yesterday regarding the I3 Seaweed project. Also, I have to extend my thanks to Cabildo de Gran Canario for supporting this initiative that Rafael introduced us mostly at the beginning of the project, and we were working on that in order to find a solution to support these activities. So here you see several months of work together in order to be able to build this first i3for-Seaweed forum that you see here. Also, I have to thank Casa Africa for making this space available for this forum. It is a wonderful building, a wonderful space, and I think everyone enjoy much to be here. I have also to thank all the speakers and moderators for accepting our challenge to be here and share knowledge, discussions between you, and for also addressing these seaweed sector and value chain, which is so important, and to also showcase what we are trying to build with the i3for-Seaweed project. Now I have also to thank Catarina Vert for being here for the 2 days, for being so supportive and for being so available to help us to achieve the best results with this project. And I think this exchange that we have and partnership, let's call like that, is working very well. And I hope we will be able to, increase the results and the visibility to the outcomes that are being produced here in the project. And finally, I want to thank all the attendees, the ones that are here in person, but also the ones that are watching online, for following this very intensive day and big day of this event. I think it was a very fruitful discussions, insights, takeaways, and I hope we will have the opportunity to continue this partnership and continue discussing these important subjects. And who knows, in the future, we'll be able to organize another one during the project implementation. So thank you so much for your time and for being here. Thank you.
So briefly, because Daniel has thanks to all the people that I would like to thank, so you mentioned, but I'm going to put some names on that. We have David Oscar. Remember David? I introduced him during the kickoff meeting. Nobody believed me that you were real. I have to show you. David is real. You see. And also Marina, is it there? Marina goes. Diana should deserve a big applause because she's going to get the PhD in a couple of weeks. Hopefully. And also to stay here, it's not just how to say, we decided to come here because as far as you can realize, we are close to Africa. So we wanted to show you how close we are to Africa. That's it. So for that, we have to contact the general director, and has a very friendly man. It was my professor of thermodynamics, and still is my friend. And he offered all of this facility, but for that we have to come here certainly frequently to talk to Liv and Carla that were over there that's organizing everything. But all for them were all facilities just to use for free, these facilities, which are very nice facilities. And we have also Jorge Castellano there. We have to and the service of translation that was inside, and that's all I think. And we decided, was an idea of my good friend. By the way, we were meeting almost every Monday, right?
Yes.
In the last. So
That's true.
I saw him more, and Orion as well, and Martins. We both saw more than my own family sometimes. So applause for them as well. So to finish us on a Spanish way, we are going up the. It's just a walk, 5 minutes from here, to have whatever you want, perhaps coffee, but I'm going to have a wine. So it's my decision. And
just a final word, okay?
Yeah.
And I also want to thank you all, i3for Seaweed partners, of course.
Oh, sure.
You are part of that, for sure, these activities. Thank you so much for being so available to help the implementation of the project. So I could not end this without saying that.
So we have to leave the Casa Africa. They have a kind of performance down in the courtyard where we were. If you want to stay, it's kind of music and so. But I'm going up there to for the networking. So it's well, you just follow me.
Thank you.